Today, I'm going to share with you every single way that I have made money since leaving my job back in 2021 through today, including my move to the Dominican Republic with my family in 2022. In addition, I'll share a clear framework that you can duplicate if your goal is to find a way to earn money and move abroad as well. Let me list out for you right here all the ways that I've made money, then we'll break it down. The first was owning 43 units of real estate. The second was as a podcast host. The third is the founder of Gobundance Emerge. The fourth was in high ticket sales. The fifth was as an equity partner in a real estate firm. And then finally, and today, really where I focus is my personal brand. Now, as I list that, all that stuff sounds really fancy, but it's not. Let me give you the arc of the story, and then we'll go from there with a framework. So I'm sitting at my job, I'm making a good living, I'm doing all these things, but miserable. And I find this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it just made sense to me. Like, man, buy assets, let those assets pay you, and that's how you make money. How else am I gonna get out of a few $100,000 a year job and maintain the same standard of living? So I went out and I bought 2 duplexes that were distressed. Together, they cost me about $170,000. That's how rough they were in upstate New York. And then we spent a bunch of money rehabbing them and putting tenants in it. I also had a single family house that was like a holdover from a prior town I lived in that I couldn't sell, and that was a rental as well. So I have 5 units. In this time, I really got into investing in myself, and I learned about these things called mastermind communities, which I honestly thought was like the Illuminati or some crazy crap. But really all they are just these groups of people that pay money to be in the same room around a similar goal. You have marketing masterminds, you have fitness-based masterminds. This one was a men's high net worth entrepreneurial mastermind. When I say high net worth, $1 million in net worth or more, which isn't that hard when you've got home equity and a decent 401k. When you combine those, you're a millionaire. But why that's relevant is that room has some incredible human beings in it and people that I really look up to and learn from. So I expanded my real estate portfolio. I went from 5 units to 43. Bought a 16 unit and bought a 22 unit with partners. And to be honest with you, the way I bought both of those was a loan for my 401k for the down payment on the 16 unit. And then I was a net worth sponsor on the 22 unit and took a percentage of the equity for that property. Now, everything I knew up to this point was real estate equals cash flow, but no. Not necessarily. Not when you're investing in value-add real estate. But what it does do is it creates a lot of equity, and you can tap that equity later. So in this Gobundance community, I'm meeting all these amazing people. This community is growing, and one of the guys that founded it also hosted a podcast, which we go back to the podcast host thing. At some point, he said, would you like to be a guest host on the podcast? I could use some help. The funny thing is, he never hosted again after I did my first one. I'll be honest with you, I fell in love with it. I really enjoy the art of researching guests, recruiting them, bringing them in, having these amazing conversations and putting them out into the world. And it worked. The podcast was called Tribe of Millionaires. And to be honest with you, if I look at the podcast itself, that paid me like $1,000 a month. By the way, the real estate, if I tapped all the passive income I could get out of it, even though it was that many units, maybe $4,000 a month. Maybe. And that's assuming I don't have to buffer anything, any reserve accounts or whatever it might be. But we're starting to add up here a little bit. Now, the real beauty of that podcast was a couple of things. One, it gave me credibility with the owners of this multi-million-dollar mastermind, who are themselves very influential people. But two, the types of people I got to interact with on that podcast, like, I would have done it for free. The $1,000 a month, like whatever. Look, I interviewed billionaires like Grant Cardone, Jesse Itzler, Tom Bilyeu. I don't know if Tom's a billionaire, but he sold his company for $1 billion at least. There were celebrities like Tito Ortiz, Exhibit the rapper, Pimp My Ride guy. You guys remember him. CIA spies, business acquisition experts, some of the biggest names in coaching in the entire world, along with authors and personalities and really interesting, influential people. And man, a lot of these people I have a relationship with to this day. Preston Smiles, Garen Jones, Derek Fay, Andrew Bustamante. So look, the reason I say all this in this arc of the story is I think there's a lesson right here. This isn't the framework. We're gonna get to that. But the lesson I learned was all my life for 21 years, I followed the money. That was the number one driver. How can I make as much as I can? And number two was whether or not I actually enjoyed what I did. In this phase of my life now, in my 40s, I'm learning probably the secrets of the uber successful, which is follow your energy first, follow your talent, lean into your genius zone, and the money comes. This is where we enter that phase. Let me prove it to you. I have this podcast. I still have my job. I have 43 units of real estate. I have a wife. I have kids. I have a life. Really, really busy phase of my life. But now the founders of this Millionaires club that I belong to say, look, we want to have the same structure, a club like this, but for people who are trying to get to $1 million, but we don't have the bandwidth to do it. So if we use the brand name of Gobundance with your energy, would you want to partner and build this with us? So on top of all these other things, I said, Yes. To this day, Gobundance Emerge is a business that I own where people pay a membership fee annually. They come to events that I host. It's a for-profit business, and it's a way that I funded my life. This is a key lesson in the framework I'm going to share in a little bit. I promise you, I'm going to break this down into 3 steps for you. But I think these story elements are important. So recapping, I got my real estate that's not paying me what I thought it would, but wow, I got a lot of equity. My net worth statement looks good. The podcast is bringing me credibility, connection, a little bit of money, but it's opening doorways and I'm gaining access and partnership to build Gobundance Emerge. Now, the timing really syncs up here. Late 2020, I get a call from a guy named Brandon Turner. If you don't know Brandon, he's a significant voice in the real estate space, another guy I met in this Gobundance community. I'm a big fan of paying for proximity. He says, hey man, I thought we've had you on the BiggerPockets podcast already, but we haven't. Why don't you come on? If you're not familiar with BiggerPockets, it's not as big as it was then, but it was the #2 business podcast in the world. And yours truly gets invited on to be a guest. That episode of BiggerPockets releases in January of 2021. And 2 months later, I decide, you know what? I think it's time to quit. Mind you, I'm not making any money on Gobundance Emerge at this point. It's a startup, so all the money's going back into building it. I have a little bit of cash flow. I can maybe take $4,000. I've got some money saved to give me a runway. But the thing that I had most was a belief that I could do this if given the chance. So in March, April 2021, I jump, which leads me to the unexpected next income stream. Remember this Gobundance community, this group of millionaires or whatever? Well, the guy that was running it, the CEO at the time, comes to me and says, hey, you're such a great ambassador for this community, and I know you're quitting your job. Build Emerge, but would you want to help us out? We've got a few hundred guys that have applied, but we haven't had the bandwidth to connect with them to see if they want to join. And hey, anybody that joins will pay you 10%. And I'm thinking, man, it's about $10,000 for somebody to join. If I get 2 or 3 of these guys to join every month, I'll make an extra few $1,000. Cool. In the span of 4 weeks, I had casual conversations with a whole bunch of guys that had applied to be a part of this community, and I closed 20 of them. The first month out, I made $20,000. Not because I'm a great salesman. In fact, I've tried to sell other things, and what I've learned about me as a sales guy is I'm an energy person, not a salesperson. Like, I don't execute on a strategy or a set of tactics or whatever. I know how to bring the right energy to be authentic and real and have a good conversation with somebody. And I'm never going to close somebody that I don't think should be closed. That's just not in my blood. So if I believe in something, I can push it. Otherwise, no. And if you're wondering, you heard insurance, never sold insurance. I was in insurance claims, directing defense counsel, dealing with lawsuits, being deposed myself. You see why I was miserable? Now, what's crazy about all this is in the same time frame, I start to network with a guy named Mark. Mark is a writer for a show called Family Guy, and he's been a writer for them for 21 years. But Mark also is a pretty significant real estate investor. Even though he's a writer for a comedy show, Mark's a pretty introverted dude, and he's buying a whole bunch of real estate in Denver and LA and Austin through a process called syndication, where essentially you acquire the properties, you raise money from people, you give those investors a return, and then you exit the property in 5 to 7 years. At the time, it was Mark and one other guy, and he's looking to expand and grow. So he says to me, hey man, look, I don't know if you've got the bandwidth for it, but I love your energy. I love that connector vibe and that value add thing that you've got about you. Would you want to jump in to be like head of marketing and do some investor relations stuff with my company? And I said, yeah, I would. So in addition to all of these things that are going on right now, and now I'm out of my job, I'm adding on partner in Quantum Capital. So we raised some money, we acquired some units. And to be honest with you, since then I've stepped back from an active role. I'm glad I did it. Now I know, like, it was great, it was fun, but not for me day to day. But the assets, my money's still in them, and so far, they're performing. Now, the way I made money with Quantum Capital was whenever we acquired a property, the general partnership, this is me, Mark, and the other partners, would collect an acquisition fee. So say on a $10 million acquisition, there was a 2% acquisition fee. That would be $200,000. And then my share of that might be like $25,000. And then to be honest with you, I would just take that money along with some of my own money on top of it and invest right back in as a limited partner in that same building alongside the investors. Now, let me talk about personal brand, and then I'm gonna give you the framework. Throughout this entire process, I had always been sharing content. When I was buying real estate, I shared. When I built networking groups, I shared my journey. When I quit the job, I shared that journey. I even got booked to speak on some stages around that. And then I did something in 2022 that was a lot of fun for me and my family. I moved here to DR. And you know what I did? I shared that journey. And a lot of people were really interested in it, which is a blessing for me. My theme in 2026 is a set of lyrics from a song called Vacation by the Dirty Heads. And that is, I make a living out of living. Meaning, if I can share what I've experienced for those that want to have a similar experience, then I'm not creating content. I'm simply documenting my journey and I'm making a living out of living. So my personal brand is a more recent sort of income stream that I'm developing. And the way I do that is a few different things. One is referral fees for realtors and mortgage brokers and all of that. Two is my DR Inner Circle, which is a community of people that are interested in investing or are investing or living here or living in the States and want to move here or any of the above that jump into a community that I cultivate so they get information, questions answered, a little more proximity, and a lot more. As I record this, it's a $9 a month thing. It'll probably go up over time, but it's just a recurring revenue model that a personal brand can build. The key to this is, though, you got to add value. In addition, I'm sourcing sponsorships on some of my content. To be honest with you, up to today, I've done 2 and 2 only. No matter how much content, if you've watched me before, you've seen me release, none of it was sponsored other than 2 times. And both are furniture stores, interestingly. But as a result of building this brand, I've done a few things. I've stepped back from quantum capital, as I mentioned. I've stepped away from being an ambassador for Gobundance. Despite the money, it was great. It served its purpose for a few years for me. Really, really good money that I made because I was really good at expressing the value of Gobundance. In fact, my top month, just to be very transparent, was about $45,000 that I made. And I did that twice. I still have Gobundance Emerge. I stepped back from the podcast and then, of course, my personal brand. But here's the framework for that, right? I want to show you the steps that I took in that arc of a story that you can utilize as well. Stage 1 is the job. You have a job currently right now. Maybe it's not one that you want, but it provides stability. It allows you to build skills. It allows you to recognize patterns. The moment I decided that my job was not something I wanted to run away from, but instead something I wanted to harvest information from, like how does this company build processes? What does their decision tree look like? How do they implement governance? Like it was a whole new lens. Even though I was high up on the chain, I was still an employee and I kind of had to just do what I was told. But now I was looking at on the back end, like how does this place really operate? Because if I'm going to do this on my own, who better to learn from than a Fortune 100 company? And the key to stage 1 is this 100% them, meaning you're fully reliant on somebody else for your income. So use it and build something else while you have it. Stage 2 for me, and I think this is a great way to think about it, is partnership. When you go out and you network with the right people and you understand the skill gaps that might be there. So if you're like me and you're outgoing and you've got a connector energy, that's a gap that you can fill with somebody that doesn't. Think podcast for me. Think Gobundance Emerge. Think quantum capital. In fact, Mark said specifically to me, like, I don't have that. You do. I'd love to partner with you. Now, but imagine the flip is true as well. If you're more that engineer brain, more analytical. I don't want to be out in front, Jamie. I don't want to make content, but I still want to move abroad. Can you provide that kind of support for the person like me? That's more visionary, head in the clouds. I get more excited about the prospect of what I'm going to build than actually building it. But there are people that are the opposite. They want to just build. I have people in my life like that right now, and it's amazing. My wife is one of them. The DR Inner Circle I mentioned, which by the way, you should check out. Link down in the bio or just go to jamiegruber.com. My wife is the backbone of that. She makes sure the forums are moderated appropriately, that people get their questions answered offline, that our weekly content series are announced inside our WhatsApp group or our Facebook group. So this is a phase of going from the job paying me 100% and I'm fully reliant on it to now I'm not going to step out and go on my own, but I'm going to partner up 50-50 and add my skills to the gap that I see in a smaller business or somebody's entity or enterprise that they're trying to build. Something I did just before I get to stage 3 that I remember at my day job always, whenever I would take a new role, I would be the one to go out and find all the other guys or gals that were in the same role in different departments as me. And I would host a once a month call for us to idea share, discuss best practices, things we're trying, all of that. And I was the one who always kept that together. I do the same with my friend group from like high school. Like we have a group chat and they're like, dude, if you didn't facilitate this text chat, like none of us would talk to each other again. Like we love each other, but like you actually put the effort in. But it's natural for me. So for you, if you're sitting at a job and thinking, how do I come abroad? I can't take this job. I can't make enough money there, which is so true. Getting a job abroad, often in the Caribbean especially, is not the answer. You're not going to make what you think you can make. It's just not a thing. Jobs aren't the number one way to make money. Entrepreneurship is, unless you get a remote job, which that's great. But when I look at what I'm great at and what gives me energy, connecting or whatever, I had no idea that those skills outside of a job, outside of that place, were valuable in the marketplace. And we've done well. Thank God, leveraging my genius, if you will. So partnership for me was what I've done with Gobundance, what I've done with Quantum Capital. And I mentioned to you, I stepped back from a lot of that. I hold on to Gobundance Emerge, and then I got my personal brand, which is stage 3, and that's IP or ownership, intellectual property. That's where it's 100% me. At some point, this Gobundance Emerge, I don't know if I'm holding it there. The editor's like, am I holding it? Is it there? There you go. This might go away, or I might say, you know what, I'm going to sell my interest and be done with this so that I can fully focus over here. And then going a step further, I've got this franchise called Grub with Gruber, which right now is an interview series mostly dedicated to topics around Dominican Republic. But I see a much bigger vision for this where it becomes a more broad podcast where I could do it anywhere in the world. Again, 100% IP, 100% ownership is stage 3. I think the problem is sometimes when you're looking like, I got this job, I can't see how I can make that kind of money at a job there, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, wherever you're going to move. So I'm going to have to create something for myself that we think we have to go from 100 to 0, meaning 100% reliance on a paycheck to 0% reliance on a paycheck. And there's a happy medium that I executed on and a lot of people I know that do. But the keys to that are a few things. 1, follow your energy and your gifts, not the money. 2, find the right community of people that support and align with who you're becoming, not who you are right now. And 3, in that season, say yes. A lot. There's a phrase, say yes and figure it out later. I think when you're trying to make a change, you've got to lean into that energy. And then at a certain point, you have to start to say no. Today, with my brand growing, having a family, and still running a business, the no's I have to say are to one-on-one interactions with most people. A lot of people want time. I can't give it. Not unless I want to say no to my family or the growth of my brand. But you got to say yes a lot in this season so you can figure out what opportunities might be out there for you that you may not otherwise know unless you said yes. So look, this video is about how to earn money abroad without having a job. And the reason it's named that is, like I said, I don't think jobs are the right play. Not only because the Caribbean isn't a job-focused environment, it's not where most of the wages come from, but AI is going to interrupt a lot of that anyway. So now is the time to build IP. Now in the Inner Circle, I do exclusive content, and some of it is based on, tours of neighborhoods and that stuff. But I also have done exclusive content on getting really granular, like, well, how do I know what my genius is? How do I find that? Not only do I show you Venn diagrams on how to do that, but I show you how to leverage AI to determine it, and so much more. So yeah, this is my pitch for something I love and I'm passionate about. Jump into the Inner Circle. It's $9 a month. You can pay $90 for the year. We have so many things we're doing and building in that community. And again, I don't know how long that price stays because the more value we add, the more valuable it becomes. But I hope what you got from today was just, hey, how did you do all this? What's the arc of your story? It's not significant. I didn't do anything special. It sounds really cool, but I was willing to invest in me. 10 grand a year. I leveraged my job income to invest in myself there in a community of people. I also bought courses and other skill building things that I could get better at, things that I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm an insurance guy. Now out of the job and having the ability, thank God, to earn a good living, even though I don't have that job, I invest still in my skills and my community. $2,000 a month to a YouTube strategist, traveling to events focused on YouTube growth, marketing, personal brand, and so on. Look, at the end of the day, it boils down to courage. Making a move abroad is a big move. It takes a lot of effort and energy. And the more complex your life is, single family income, 2 kids, etc., the more difficult it can feel. But today, if you start understanding what am I great at, how can I leverage that, get around the right people, and then take bold action, leveraging that income and that stability of the job as your seed capital for all of it. Look at me. Do I look exceptional? Besides how exceptionally bald I am? I don't think so. It really is that simple. Not easy, but that simple. There is one more thing that I should share with you, and that is the cost of living may not be exactly what you think when you move here. So what I would do if I were you is tap on this video right here, and I'll go through it all, how much things cost truly, depending on the lifestyle that you want. This way you can plan for the income you need to make in order to move here. See you on the next video.